We'll get started shortly as I keep letting folks in. We'll have a fairly large group today. If you can mute yourself until you have a question, and we'll try to save them towards the end. But you can also drop things in the chat, and we love it. Hi, IKEA.
Hi, Jen. Hi, everyone.
IKEA is my partner on running trips. We'll get started in just one more minute. I would love to know where everyone is located and kind of what you have in mind. If you know where you'd like to move, what your process will be for moving. Hunter is thinking about Mexico. Amazing. Very convenient, Hunter. I love that. We drove 8 days to move to Mexico. You will not have to do that, depending on where you are. Laura is in LA and thinking about Spain. Okay, big California contingent so far. West is in New Jersey, thinking about Mexico, Panama, and Portugal. Catherine, Portugal, or Mexico. Lovely, lovely. Carrie is also in California and has a ton of choices. Suzanne, I'm going to decline this note taker, but you will get, I'll send out the recording. Chicago, interested in Spain for digital nomad. Portugal and Ireland. Some of these places we don't go yet, but we're thinking of. Oh, Maryland's in Canada. Maryland, we have a lot of Canadians here in Merida, Yucatan. I will tell you, they're all in my Merida Food Hunt group, Facebook group, and they're always looking for potatoes. They're very poutine committed. Love, oh, tons and tons of Californians today. Catherine's in North Carolina. Intaba, if that's, is it Intaba or Intiba? Is in New York, interested in Mexico or Portugal. Lovely. Well, I am, one moment. That's my pit bull bulldog mix, and he will absolutely not let it go if I don't let him in. So I'm Jen Barnett. I live in Merida, Yucatan. I'm from Alabama, and we started Expatsi almost 3 years ago now to move abroad ourselves and to help other people. And a big part of that is our scouting trips. Oh, Hunter is from Birmingham too. Well, us too, up until April. So these are the trips that we have scheduled right now. We're going to Portugal actually 5 times next year, but one trip is sold out. So we'll be going in February, April, June, and September. We'll be going to Spain in May and October. And there's actually a second trip in Spain as well that will be Andalusia. But the itinerary is still in development. And then in Mexico, we're doing things a little bit differently. We have 4 separate trips to Mexico that you can stack as you see fit. So if you're just interested in beach towns, you could do Puerto Vallarta and Merida. If you're more of a culture vulture, maybe Mexico City and Oaxaca, or you can do all 4 and compare regions all across the country. And then we'll have our first trips to France and to Italy in the spring, just after Easter. Jerry is in Long Island and thinking about France, Switzerland, or Spain so far. Amazing, amazing. Yeah, West, I'll send out the video. We're recording it. And you'll get the slides as well. So this is what makes our trips different from your average tour that you might take to go and see the Colosseum or the Acropolis or whatever else. Our trips are geared around seeing if you would like to live in a city or country. The idea came out of mine and Brett's own trips. We toured Vancouver, Canada, and we did Merida, and then we fell in love with it. So we decided to go ahead and move before we toured more cities and countries, and keep touring from here. But the idea is that you see neighborhoods and towns where you might want to live. You might do boring stuff like go to the pharmacy and take your meds and see if they have those things. You can absolutely go to the dry cleaners if you want. We often go to the laundromat. We stay in apartments, and the idea is that you can see what public transportation is like, go to the market, cook a meal for yourself. In general, you're trying to get a feel of what it's like to live there. We also recommend expat events, and we highly encourage you to participate in your personal hobbies. So for example, I love to cook, so I like to go to all the markets and see what ingredients are available. Brett loves the movies, so we always go to the movies wherever we are. These are not the most social activities that we participate in, but there are also hiking groups and improv troops and everything else. So all of those things I think are an important part of seeing if a place is right for you. And beyond that, you're checking for vibes. Does this feel more like home or does that feel more like home? And you will know, especially when you're not, walking around with your ear things on, listening to a tour, following somebody with a sign held up. That's not what this is like. It doesn't mean that we aren't a group and that we don't go around and do things together. But the eye is to what would my life be like here? We're playing house in these locations. So we start in the morning with tours with local guides, and they understand that you're looking at the area from a lifestyle perspective. Then you break for lunch, and then in the afternoon we see real estate. There are occasions where real estate gets canceled. It's one of those things, so we'll replace it with more tours. And then you're on your own in the evenings to explore as you wish. Most of our trips, there are a couple of exceptions in Mexico because we're doing these back-to-back trips, but most of our trips kick off with a seminar, which includes experts in visas, taxes, healthcare, and real estate. And the idea is that you can learn a lot about whether or not you should apply for the D7 or the D8 in Portugal, whether or not your Social Security is going to be taxed in Spain, how long of a lease you need before you apply for your visa, whether you need to apply in Spain or you can apply in the US, and all those things. But then we spend several hours breaking bread with these groups so that you can have an intimate experience over wine. It seems to help, and ask them all your personal questions. Should I sell my house before or after I move to Italy? How will that affect? Is there a wealth tax? Can I bring my adult child? All of these questions that you have. And the idea is that you have an in-person sit down. If you've looked for immigration attorneys and different resources online, you know how it is. You can't tell who's a scam and who's real and all these different things. Do they speak English? And so by putting you in the same room, we're trying to give you a support structure of people who can help you actually make your move happen. So far, it's been very successful in helping people move. The other aspect is your cohort of people. IKEA was on our first trip, so she absolutely knows this. But these groups are very, very close, and you become each other's cheerleading section to help you make your move. And ideally, and you all like each other, is to be friends so you have a community when you get there. We provide tours and transportation on the ground in the seminar. We ask you to provide your own accommodations, food and drink, aside from what is at the seminar, and your flights. This is very intentional for us because we want to be able to offer the trip at a huge variety of price points. And if I put you all in the same rooms at the Hilton, first of all, you're not going to get a very realistic experience. But second of all, it may preclude some people from being able to come. We also help people share rooms if you want, and happy to help people bunk up, not literally, but share Airbnbs. And the trip can be very, very affordable, especially if you cook and things like that in the evenings. So I'm going to walk through an overview of the itineraries, and then we'll go through your questions. So of course we love Spain. What's not to love? Spanish, very universal language, lots of friendly visa options, huge variety of lifestyles that you can have. Barcelona is so different from Malaga, from Seville, from Bilbao, from Madrid. And this is a general overview. I'm not listing every neighborhood we're visiting because honestly, it's so many at this point. But this will give you an idea. We kick off in Barcelona with our seminar. Our partners there are called Moving to Spain. And then we tour Girona, Sitges, Valencia, Javia, Morera, Altea, and Murcia, primarily. So it's a huge variety of medieval towns, super LGBTQ friendly neighborhoods. Valencia, obviously known for its arts and culture. They went through devastating floods, but they mostly spared the city center and the suburbs that we'll be looking at, but there are opportunities to pitch in if you're so inclined. A series of towns on the Costa Blanca, which are just stunningly placid and beautiful. And finally, Murcia. Murcia has about 1 million people, which is kind of my sweet spot, but it's also known as Europe's orchard because so much local organic produce is grown there. Any questions about Spain in particular? I see Kelly says, are these coastal towns near a beach? Yes, all the coastal towns have beaches. It's interesting. Some of them are sandy beaches and some of them are rocky beaches. So you kind of have your pick. Some of them are sandy and rocky, depending on what part of the beach you're on. Even Murcia, which isn't coastal, it's inland, is only about 30 minutes from the beach. Let me tell you, a big benefit of Europe is there is so much coastline. I feel like coastline is so gate kept in the US and not accessible. Oh, Corinne. So first of all, there are beautiful mountains across Spain, but absolutely I would recommend Girona. It is close to the Pyrenees and Andorra, and I mean just breathtakingly beautiful. Or how do you choose the neighborhoods? We choose them with our local guides. That's how we do it. Now, we first started out, I was picking on my own, but now I have professionals in each location and they help us pick the locations. So wait, how many areas? Basically 1 or 2 a day. If you're only interested in Barcelona and Valencia, I can't pick and choose. I can't sell pieces of the trip because my costs are span the whole trip. The van and the guides and things like that. But you don't have to attend parts you don't want to. And many people do that. They come and go as they please. Sometimes they'll spend extra days in the towns that they like. Sometimes they'll venture out to new towns. Sometimes they'll take the day off and do leisure activities. Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. So we generally see both homes and apartments. Hold on one second. We generally see both homes and apartments, but they are generally for sale. And the reason is because it's easier to see things for sale than it is to see things for rent. But be sure to ask realtor, how much would it be to rent a place like this? How much would it be to rent a place like this? It's just so hard to get in to see rentals when you are not there to rent. And of course, we're not expecting that you are there to buy or rent today. However, we introduce you to realtors in every destination. So if you're like, you know what, I don't want to wait, I'm ready to go. This happens on every trip where it's like, I'm ready to go now. You can add extra days and the realtor will happily show you properties just for them. Yeah, Corinne, you can absolutely come and go as you please. Kelly, for sure. As a matter of fact, our guides, Al and Allison, live in Sitges as well. It's what I love about Sitges is this, is that a lot of places that are LGBTQ friendly are just city centers. And it's like, well, but if you're a gay family, you have gay kids, it's not nothing wrong with living in a city center or whatever, but you might want a more suburban pace of life. And I feel like Sitges kind of offers that, which I think is fantastic. So, not every day is party, 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 right? Most people have just regular, ordinary Netflix lives. And I think Sitges is really nice for that. Yes, Habia, Morea, and Altea are part of the Alicante coastline. So the Andalusia trip, we're still working on the itinerary, but it'll focus on Malaga, which is, talk about lifestyles of the rich and famous, but on a budget, it absolutely is. And then also on Seville and Jerez and Cadiz, which are beautiful neighborhoods on the southern coastline. Costa del Sol, right? Isn't that Costa del Sol? Sometimes I get all my coastlines confused. And we'll tour those. And that'll be released soon. So let's move into Portugal, our perennial favorite. This trip sells out every time. And then we have a wait list. It's very popular and with good reason. That's the trip IKEA was on. Portugal is just as charming as everyone says. The people are welcoming. The food is excellent. The weather is amazing. You have a huge variety. The climate is very similar to California, so the Algarve is very much like San Diego, and Porto is more like San Francisco, and it encompasses a lot of those same elements. Lots to love and a great cost of living. Rent has gone up in city centers. It's not Americans' fault. Don't let them tell you that. There are only 10,000 Americans in Portugal. I know that the LA Times comes out and says that every so often, but it just isn't possible. But if you want a lower cost of living, it isn't hard to go a little bit outside the city center. And those are the areas that we show you on the trip. We do the seminar like we do in Spain. Our partner here is called Viv Europe, and they have immigration attorneys, real estate experts, golden visa expert, tax experts, and so on. We love them very much. And then we tour areas around Lisbon and Porto. We don't tour the Algarve at this time, but we provide a DIY itinerary. If you're interested in the Algarve, it's very easy to see on your own. You might make buddies on the trip and go as a group. We start with Ericeira. For folks who found us on TikTok, there's a creator there called Mindful Migrant, and she moved from Florida to Ericeira, and she shows us around there, and 100% of people say that they would want to move there. It's so lovely. It's less than an hour from Lisbon. Then we do Cascais, which is probably the bougiest part of Portugal, but I mean, just so charming. And you can always live in the perimeter of it if you'd like to access the amenities at a lower price point. Kelly, if you book the Portugal trip, we just send it to you. And then Setúbal, which I love. It's an up and coming area south of Lisbon, very accessible by train or bus or car. There's even a ferry, and there are lower price points. And I think it's a place where you can really get in on the ground floor still. If you're trying to make a smart real estate investment, don't buy immediately, rent, make sure that you're happy first, but when you're ready to buy. Then we're going to do a series of neighborhoods around Porto. Our guide, Tanya, has helped choose these. The first day we'll do Maya and another neighborhood called Gondomar. Then we'll do Villa do Conde and Povoa de Varzim. But they are beautiful villages on the Atlantic coast, north of Portugal, headed towards Spain in the Galicia region, if you're interested there. Then we'll do Foz de Douro and Matosinhos, which are two of my favorite neighborhoods in Porto on the coast. Foz is more upscale, Matosinhos is more middle class. And, it's where the IKEA is, and just very livable areas. And then finally, Aveiro, which is called the Venice of Portugal because it has canals and the long gondolas. And people love living there. There's also a university there, and I believe they have English speaking programs. Any questions about Portugal? All right, I'll plow along. Next, we'll do Italy. For Italy and France, we have a partner. In Italy, they operate under Finding La Dolce Vita. And in France, they operate under Finding La Vie en Rose. So they help Americans move to both of these beautiful areas, of course, known for food and art and culture and all the finer things in life. On the Italy trip, we'll focus in the north of the country. Colleen, the Portugal trip that's sold out is January, and it's not on there. February is getting close, though, I will tell you. And there's also a really friendly tax program for retirees. A couple of questions right quick. Kelly says, do you provide custom tours? If not, can you recommend someone who does? Sure. Just write to me and we can work that out. Carrie says, question about the Spain trips. If I go, I'd like to go on both trips. Are you going to do a trip in Andalusia? Yeah, so the Andalusia trip and the Barcelona trip are together. So we'll have one day in between, and then we'll move on to Andalusia. And we'll do that twice. We'll do it in the spring and we'll do it in the fall. So you can book them together, and people are booking them while they wait for us to provide the day-to-day itinerary. There is a new digital nomad visa in Italy, and they've always had the elective residency, which is what many retirees use. So we'll start there with the seminar as well. We're going to spend our time. Oh, one thing I want to point out in case you didn't notice it up here at the top, and that is we visit a lot of towns and neighborhoods, a lot, but we don't sleep in all these towns and neighborhoods. We go to hold on a second, let me let a couple people in. We stay in one place for several nights in a row, and we venture out on day trips. Does that make sense? So don't worry about, oh my gosh, I have to pick up and move and sleep in Milan, and then I have to sleep in Lake Como, and then I have to sleep in Bologna. No, you'll stay in Barcelona for several nights, or Valencia for several nights, or Altea for several nights, and so on, so that you have a place to kind of unpack and unwind and things like that. And then we'll venture out from there. And we do use group transportation to get you to those places. In the beginning, everyone took buses and trains, and let me tell you, the transportation is better. Okay, so in Verona, we'll visit Verona and Milan and Lake Como, and actually a couple of other towns as well. Then we'll move on to stay in Florence, and we'll tour Bologna. Lucca, which is lovely. We have friends who moved there from Birmingham and just could not be happier. Florence, of course, you know, a big tourist town. However, we won't hit the touristy spots. We'll be enjoying living like locals. And we'll visit Cortona, which is where Under the Tuscan Sun is set. So if you want to buy a house and have your adventure, you can do that there. Any questions about Italy? Through questions right quick. Oh, Carrie asked if they could bring dogs and cats. There are no quarantines in any of the countries, any of these countries. That's right. Ike and Jerry, I did get rid of almost everything. Someone asked about if we had storage. Okay, lovely. Does the tour for Italy include cities where homes are sold real cheap? Kelly, that's a great question. You know what? I don't know if that's true or not, but I will absolutely ask. You know, most of those places are quite remote. So, you know, the secret of the €1 homes is that they aren't where anyone wants to live, which is okay. I'm not dissing it at all, because sometimes I don't want to be where people want to live either. But because we are going to places where people do want to live, my guess is that it might not, but we might be able to find what the most nearby €1 home locations are, if that makes sense. All right, so next we'll do France. A lot of people think they can't include France or can't afford France because you think, ooh la la, it's so expensive. And it actually isn't. Paris is, of course, but outside of Paris, and it is more expensive than, say, Portugal or Spain, but it's just not remotely as expensive as you're used to across the United States. And as retirees, you can go with a budget of $1,500 a month in passive income. And you could live on that too. You're not going to live like royalty, of course, but you could live on it. We'll focus on Provence because it has the most appeal for most people. But if it's successful, then we'll visit other places as well. Marilyn asks a similar question: would future Italy trips include south of Rome and Sicily because it's less expensive? Maybe. If trips are successful, then yes, we'll add. That happened in Spain. Our trip, we added the additional trip of Andalusia because there are a lot of people who want to visit Spain. And the more people we have go, the more trips we'll add, of course. Like I mentioned, our partners there are the same as in Italy. And we'll tour all towns in Provence and along the French Riviera, including Nice, Saint Raphael, which is a fishing village, Menton, which is just stunningly gorgeous with these colorful buildings, super photogenic town. If you want the most Instagram friendly town in France, I would pick Menton. Then we'll do Cannes. So of course, that's where the big film festival is each year. Uzès, which is a medieval village. And I looked at houses there, 4-bedroom homes with pools for about €1,500 a month in rent. Montpellier, which is a French city, but it has a big Spanish influence, very lovely as well. And Aix-en-Provence, which is a Roman area town full of fountains. Any questions about, we'll stay in Nice for 4 nights and Saint-Rémy-de-Provence for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, for 5 nights. All right. Okay, so I want to talk about Mexico. That's where I live. Madly in love with this country. Will absolutely be happy if we get to live here forever. One of the nice things about Mexico, of course, is very easy for Americans to move to get to. You can be in the same time zones. And the people here are just so lovely. I can't get enough of it. What we're doing in Mexico, we have a number of partners in Mexico. In Spain, we have one partner. In Portugal, we have one partner. In Italy and France, we have one partner. But in Mexico, we have a number of partners because so many Americans move here. So we have partners in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico City, San Miguel de Allende, Oaxaca, Baja, Cabo, Merida, and Playa del Carmen. And not all of them are involved yet. Some of them are very new on our team. But so what we're doing is compiling series of trips so that you can pick and choose. You can head to Mexico City and tour Mexico City Arts Week with Amber. You can, the Puerto Vallarta and Merida trips are more traditional as our trips have been. They both kick off with a seminar with local experts. I just realized I didn't replace these pictures. Sorry about that. You'll just have to trust me. Mexico City is not on the ocean, but I will be replacing them soon. But they kick off with a seminar. We do our local tours. We do our real estate in the afternoon. But for Mexico City, she will do something similar, but it's walking neighborhoods, Roma and Condesa in the north of Mexico City, and then one suburban area. And then in Oaxaca, we're gearing the whole trip around the first food and wine festival. If you know anything about Oaxaca, you know it's so known for food and mezcal, and there's even a wine region there now. I'll reserve judgment. We'll see. But and I'll be going on that trip also. By the way, we don't go on all the trips now, Brett and I, but I will be on the Oaxaca trip and I will be on the France and Italy trips next year. So I'm looking forward to that. But so we'll have one day of normal neighborhood tours and things like that. And the rest you'll see the city through the lens of the Food and Wine Festival. A little on the touristy side, but Oaxaca is so known for its food and wine that I can't think that anyone would want to move there without being a huge foodie. Hunter says, scouting trip to Mexico mentions a travel agent will work with you. Is there a fee? There's not a fee. Yes, they will help you find an apartment, but you could also use your regular agent if you like. Either one is fine. Any questions about Mexico? Lovely. Y'all are so easy. Oh, Catherine says San Miguel. Yes, in future. Ah, Nick, I saw your name when you joined. I was like, wine guy. I want to hear about that. So these are some of the outlets that have featured us in our trips. If you're interested to go and check them out. We're very fortunate. As you can imagine, a lot of Americans are looking to leave right now, and we want to be here for everybody who is interested. This is about me and Brett. So as I mentioned, we moved here. Well, that's wrong. We moved here this year after scouting some different locations. And our goal is to be sort of triage nurses who bring you in, help you find places that might be good fits for you, and then connect you with professionals around the world. Our network is growing and growing and growing, and we have partners in Ireland, Southeast Asia, Ghana, Uruguay, Costa Rica, Panama, Peru, and many, many other countries, and we're adding all the time. And our goal is to get you from potentially, I saw most people in the chat had a lot of countries in mind, and that's kind of the perfect time to come and talk to us, right? When Brett and I got started, there were 194 countries and they were all equal in our eyes. And I was like, how do we decide? You know, some people have that, oh, I definitely want to move to Switzerland. I've always wanted to live in Switzerland. Or I got a job in Germany. I'm moving to Germany. And so they have this very clear path, but most of us are just like, I know I want something different, something better. I don't know where I'm allowed to move. I don't know where I would want to move. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make collections of places that do want Americans to move there and help you build paths to get there and build community. And then our goal is that once you move, then you become part of my network and you might help the next person move abroad, so that we're essentially building a diaspora of kind Americans around the world who want to help each other live, you know, our best lives. Let me see a couple of questions. Oh yeah, IKEA's right. You can book time with me. You have a ton of great offerings. Thank you. And it seems like moving plans. What's the best path forward if we want to get a plan in place while keeping budget in mind? So what I might do, Amanda, is book a brainstorm session with me. IKEA, will you drop that brainstorm session in particular into the chat if you don't mind? Or Brett, thank you. You might book a brainstorm with me and we can sit down and help you figure out what would be a good fit. Yeah, my pleasure. My wife and I want to book the February tour to Portugal. My adult daughter wants to come with, but she isn't wanting to move. She just wants to spend time with us. Would we have to purchase her a seat? If she comes on the tour, then yes. If she stays in the hotel room, then no. Can you explain what is included in your membership? Sure. So we have a new program. I will tell you, we launched this program thinking that we were absolutely 100% certain that Kamala would win, but people would be getting back to wanting to move abroad after they were done with the election. And we wanted to have a simple way for them to access resources. We had no idea what was about to happen. And so thankfully we have that in place. But the idea is this: we have a 6-stage process for moving abroad, and everyone goes through all 6 stages. And the idea is to find a path to help get you through the 6 stages at your own pace. And so what we're doing is taking all of our resources and structuring them like a course. It doesn't mean that you're going in and, accessing it purely like a course, but it's a path essentially that you follow to help guide you through each part of the process. It might include watching videos from me. We have free webinars. We have one every other week. So far we've done how to move to Mexico in 60 days, how to move to Portugal, how to move to Spain in 6 months, how to start your own online business. We're doing one coming up on how to move with LGBTQ kids. We're going to do one on how to access healthcare around the world, and so on. And so you'll get a webinar every other week. And then beyond that, it's discounts on the other services we offer. So for example, and I'll get to what a good lead in. Thank you. I promise that, who was it that Catherine did not prompt Catherine to give me this segue. But we're doing a Black Friday special for Move Abroad memberships, and it's just through today, and the code is Friday. You save on like your first month. It renews, but you don't have to renew it beyond a month. You can come in and watch all the webinars. We don't mind. But once you join, you also get a code for 10% off trips, and it's only good through today. We do not do a lot of discounts on the trips because they sell, but we are doing one right now. And then, so you get discounts like that. And then there are also like some downloadable guides, checklists, moving guides, things like that. We have a guide to every visa in the world, stuff like that. Okay. Yeah, okay, absolutely, Colleen. You'll spend 5 nights in Lisbon and 4 nights in Portugal, and then you'll tour areas around both of those. Wes, you do not have to be a member to book a consultation. Members just save 20% on consultations. Also, if you're not a member already, we have a Facebook group. It's called the Expatsi Fam, and it is about 5,000 people. We want, as I've said, we really want to build this community. So as people figure out things together, there are a lot of groups you can join to make friends, build connections, and also talk to people who are further along in the process than you. If you can get your questions answered through peers, I'm all for it. I want to move 1 million Americans, so we'll all have to do it together. What else? I have a couple of little things at the end. You can't read this, but these are some screenshots from our first trip, and things people had to say about the trip that I just really loved, and I thought people might appreciate getting to see. But when I know it's hard to read now, but when you get the slides, you can. And I also went over just some guidelines of people who I think will love the trip and people who I think will not love the trip, just in the interest of full transparency. If you are coming in and you're trying to decide between several countries, or you want to move to Portugal, but you aren't sure if you want to go to Porto or Lisbon, and you want help choosing, and I think you're a good fit, right? Because we are giving you a buffet to sample all of these different places to live and get an idea. We want you to fall in love with the place, right? Or to be like, no, you know what? It's not for me. I want to keep looking, and that's okay too. Catherine says, assuming we book Feb to Portugal, when we receive info to book where to stay, you can, the day you book. For people who are ready to go and want to fast track their move, you're a really good fit because you meet all our consultants there. And if you want to have meeting with the immigration attorney or get into it with the tax accountant, or like I said, stay after and see real estate properties and actually sign a lease. You know, for some of these countries, you do have to have a lease in place. That includes Portugal and France. Then they're great situations. Also, if you haven't looked before, it is not easy to find realtors that you know you would want to work with in other countries. And so I think that's a big benefit, is getting to spend time with realtors in person. If you want to have a cohort and meet other people, I think it's a really good fit for you. People bond a lot over the good and bad. And then if you also want a little bit of freedom, because of course you aren't required to be on every tour, you can come and go as you please. Guides will share their location. So if you want to wander off, you can. This is a really important facet of the trip, which is the trip continues going. But you are free to wander off at your leisure because we're all grown folks. And people who can really take advantage of the opportunity to have search encounters, you know, serendipitous opportunities to meet people on the street and ask them about how they like living there, because there are a lot of opportunities to do that. These folks, I do not think will be as big of fans of the trip. It doesn't mean that we aren't, that we don't want to help you. We're happy to provide services, but I don't think you will like the trip as much. If you're expecting it to be more like an all-inclusive or a catered experience, it's not. This is intentional. All of these things are intentional because you have to move abroad on your own at the end of the day. We can provide a lot of help to you, but there are challenges, and having a little bit, you know, you've got to have a little bit of grit to overcome things that aren't like home, that things that you don't expect, fumbling through Google Translate in a hurry and things like that. And so by providing training wheels for you, but not rushing to solve every problem for you, it also allows us to offer it at a more agreeable price point, which we appreciate as well, because like I said, we want to make it as accessible as possible. If you want to craft a completely custom tour, like I mentioned, we can work on that for you. But in this case, we show a big variety of places, and I do a survey at the end and I ask people, which places would you live, visit, or avoid? Everybody's answers are different, except for Edisada. Everybody would move to Edisada, but and everyone would move to Altea, Spain. But in general, everyone's answers are different and people like different things. And then finally, if it is really, really challenging for you when little things go wrong, it is going to be hard to go on the trip, and it's going to be hard to move abroad. There was famously a lady on CNN right after the election, and she moved home because they didn't make her cocktail at her restaurant that she moved, you know, she moved to France, and she was mad because they served some different cocktail to her besides a martini. It's really, I mean, I just want to save you the time and money. It's going to be really challenging. Sometimes it's not going to be the cocktail you want. Hopefully that makes sense. But we try to make the inconveniences as mild as possible. But it's a good time to really know yourself, and it will be a good guideline as to whether or not you're ready to move abroad too. IKEA, would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. And like Jen said, it's kind of like a choose your own adventure experience. And so when there are, moments to pivot along the way, I think those provide the best stories. And you end up running into cute little cafes that you wouldn't have found otherwise, or having a really engaging conversation with someone. And I think that's what kind of makes these type of trips and travel in general really exciting.
Yeah, I agree. There was one point we were walking from the train station to a little cafe to grab a croissant and coffee before starting our walk. And some men yelled, "Come here." I was like, how do they, first of all, rude. And second of all, how do they know we speak English? And we went over and it turned out they were Americans and they were playing a bingo game and they were trying to meet people from all over the world. They were so disappointed that we were Americans, but we ended up spending an hour with them and we cut the trip or cut the tour short by an hour so that we could sit and talk to, 8 men from all over the US who now lived here about their experiences. And while we were sitting there talking to them, some Viking river cruise came by, 75 people with their earbuds in their ears and the person with the paddle. And it was just so clear at that point what the difference was between what we do and what that kind of a tour does, because we had now made friends. We're swapping social media contact info, and that group, they learned all about whatever some medieval building was, but really got no taste of what it was like to live there. Well, that is my presentation. Like I said, you will get the slides and we'll be sure to send out the recording as well. But you can also reach out to me. IKEA has dropped my email in the chat. Thank you, Wes. My pleasure. My pleasure. We love what we do. We're so excited to help other people on this journey. Let me tell you, the only thing I regret is not doing it sooner. We are so happy in Mexico. All right. Well, y'all, I hope to see you soon. My pleasure, Carrie. Thank you, Amanda, Hunter. And IKEA is here too if you have questions. Thank you, Corinne and Taba. Thank you. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Perfect. Lovely, lovely. Well, y'all take care. Bye-bye, Colleen Ceiling Light. Thanks, Catherine. Bye.